Celestito Blanco, dear sister, and we're reading Saturnastra Loki. This is chapter 12, part 2. The following day, Ingrid started her journey back home with her knights, and they saddled their princes and took the most direct route home. And they were offered to escort Alida, but she declined. And a couple of the drawn knights followed her a bit of a ways, but she could sense them. And after giving them a roundabout for a couple of hours, they allowed her to go alone as she willed. And Alida was making her way towards Aragon, and there was certain wealth to be made entertaining Leo, the drunken lord of Aragon. And after a 5-hour journey, she stopped and weighed her options. And her thoughts were cut short when something prickled the side of her neck, and she was soon out like a lamb. Parallel to this, Loki was walking towards the crossroad, and he figured out that the best way to kill time before returning home was to help Karina with her work. And from the forest emerged a bizarre creature that seemed familiar, and he handed Loki a copper ring. Frowning, Loki said, "Do you have anyone else to bother?" The being said nothing. "I am not that slave girl's keeper, and you expect me to shame myself to the rest of the life to looking after her," said Loki, scratching his hair with both his hands. The being said nothing once again. Its bizarre, accusing eyes made Loki change form, and while he had the body of a flamingo, Loki took flight in search of Alida. And the creature dissipated into the darkness. Eventually, Loki found what he was looking for, and it was the goddess Hebe in the form of a vulture, and perching beside her, Loki asked, "Do you know where the other cultists are located?" "I was under the impression that you were not interested in eradicating the heretical worship," inquired Hebe. "Matters of religion is a dicey subject, and it is one of those that can warm and I prefer not to touch. However, if the ritual resembles in any way white magic, then it is a matter that must be taken precedence," said Loki. "You are a very strange man indeed," said Hebe, confused by Loki's apparent hatred for white magic. "Normally, this was the only type of magic that was ever tolerated." "Only when I have the mind to be misunderstood," retorted Loki, and he added, "So where is Alida?" "Follow me," said the vulture. And Loki flew behind the goddess Hebe for a couple of miles, and he changed his trajectory when he saw to the shadows of the winding forest the beckoning creature, and he stopped the moment she noticed Loki was not running after her, and she lowered her head and she narrowed her eyes, turning around to follow Loki instead. And when she got up to him, she asked, "I was under the impression that I was leading the way." "I am still following you. It's just that I wanted to take a different route, to try a little stealth, and I fear you have grossly overestimated the extent of my powers," said Loki, perching in a nearby branch to trim his feathers a little. Staring at Loki from beak to toes, he could not help but wonder why Loki had chosen such a colorful bird. Like he's a form of a flamingo. Flamingos be pink. She could also not see the amorphous creature that Loki was trailing, but she could tell based on the movements of his eyes that the erratic flight pattern he was taking. And by dusk, Loki and Hebe arrived at the hidden temple of the cultists, and they were the same fellows which had massacred the elven tribe. And their followers were bringing along towards the altar in cages strange assortment of creatures, and in one of those cages Loki saw Alida. And she had completely shed her human visage and had the appearance of a large ebony-colored snake with a white underbelly. And through much work and effort, the cultists had gathered a couple of unicorns, 2 griffins, a sire antelope, and 10 purple frogs, in addition to other creatures that were not common in the region. And his original plan was just to enter all guns a-blazing. However, the presence of a sleeper created its own set of complications, and the creature was being kept in the inner sanctum, which was where it was originally discovered, and the temple was located in one of the many blind spots of his people's information network. And to get more information, Diden made a slight run through the temple collecting memory fragments, and after a couple of minutes he compiled his report for Loki. The fellow inside the sanctum, boring people, is Evalance, and he originally discovered the temple while prospecting for gold. And the temple was built like an inverted step pyramid, carved into the valley floor, and a forest has grown around it, and the rainwater had done wonders to dry in the mud and dirt to cover it up. And there's no available information regarding who built the temple and how long it has remained buried. It wasn't too uncommon to find out of places and objects, even in places where folks are believed to have fully explored it. And it was a pleasant surprise for Loki, ambient and unwelcome one due to the presence of the sleeper. And the sleeper was in the bottom floor inside a structure in the shape of a carved dodecahedron.
What even is that?
I don't know, it's like a bigger hexagon.
Dodecahedron.
The carvings were runes and letters written in many different languages, all saying the same thing. And the one carving that Loki was able to understand read, "I want to be alone." And there were more to be read in that section. However, the humans had broken through the only part of the wall that Loki could read. And called inside was the silhouette of a creature of enormous stature, and lacking a human frame, it reminded Loki of the shriveled up body of a very skinny humpback whale. And the fins and edges resembled the suckers of octopuses, and the head was rather small in comparison to the rest of the body, and it was slightly resting on one of its flippers, and surrounding the head was a lion-like mane, and the closed eyes were like two round orbs. However, it had other eyes running to the back, and even a couple on its long, thin, pointed tail with two horns at the tip. And the back was rather colorful, with a scaly line pattern of red and blue. And Loki stared at the creature for a long while, till Disdain finally said to him, "Shouldn't we get a leader anytime soon?" "I'm sorry, I got to focus in formulating a plan," said Loki, blinking twice. Time, bro?
17 minutes.
After generally thinking things through, Loki realized that if the sleeper hadn't been awakened by all the rockets around him, then it was relatively safe to engage the enemy. The night soon fell, and the temple was lighted by torches, and there was a recently made stone stairs that led up and down the inverted pyramid. And much care was being made towards the drawings of the pentagrams and decorations of blood sacrifices, and while Evelyn's drawn on of a heap bent out of her breast, and the worshippers murmured in dancing reverie of the awakening of the sleeper. And this was the first time the actual goddess Iris stepped foot in such a profane ground, and due to the nature of the forest she had no powers there, and she only had a dancing hold on the location due to Loki's faith in her. And she saw the visage of the creature lurking inside the dodecahedron, and she grimaced. And since Loki was not feeling in a fighting type of mood, he stretched his hair and took the form of a bizarre blue flower resembling sundews, and the scent of the flowers attracted hundreds of little poodle moths, and the spores of which caused the people to fall asleep. And silently Loki went and freed the animals from their cages. He took the form of plants this time. And when he came to see Alida, she opened her snake mouth wide into a happy smile, and she said, "You came for me." He allowed her to crawl around his way, holding her with one hand, and he said, "You wouldn't think that I would have abandoned you in your time of need, did you not? So must I always be in distress to warrant your attention?" asked Alida coyly. "Seems like I," said Loki, chuckling. So my gallant knight, should we skedaddle?" asked Alida. "Yes, let's get out of here," said Loki. And while he walked up the stairs, Loki wondered what to do about the cultists, and they could not simply be left to their own devices. And while he wrestled with the moral dilemma of killing people in their sleep, even as awoke and he threw a fit, and by the time the little mouse had left, and through his frenzy he rallied through the truth and awake, and not before shooting Loki with a bolt from his crossbow. And Loki did not move out of the way, rather it had caught him by a bit of a surprise, and it missed him, striking Alida in her thigh. And she gave a piercing scream and then fainted from the shock, and what occurred next was something that Loki feared and half expected. Historically speaking, his people always had the worst luck when it came to sleepers, and they always seemed to awake by some manner of extraordinary circumstances near them, and the creature flopped around and a bit like a fish out of water, and his skin then secreted a strange yellowish ooze which filled the first bottom of the two levels of the pyramid.
Was this the sleeper they were looking for in that other one, the one in Karina?
No, that's a different sleeper. This was way away from it.
Alright.
But they just had the worst luck of always running into them, you know, like,
yeah.
You know how the JoJo people are always like running into like the vampire sponsor deal?
Yeah.
They just gravity.
They run into another one of those.
Yeah, just that luck or so. Time?
14 minutes.
The people ran away in a panic, screaming and bellowing, and Loki was not paying attention to the creatures, and he moved the bolt and surgically using the instrument he had installed in the back of his head, and using a piece of his own flesh, he sealed the wound as his antibodies dug deep into Alida's skin, treating and healing the internal damage that the arrow had caused. And once she was better, he started to pay attention to the sleeper situation, and the ooze secreted by the sleeper was causing a strange allergic reaction. and the first one to drop dead with strange swords and skin irritations akin to acid burns was Evelance, and those that were in the higher tiers tried to escape, and the sleeper flapped around a bit like a mud skipper, and when he stopped, it opened all its eyes, glaring about with the fury one finds in a fellow being awakened by a bucket of cold water. And after making some strange clicking sounds, it emitted a high-pitched supersonic attack that humans were not able to hear, but they fell nonetheless, and this created a dizzying effect, and some stumbled and fell down the stairs, and some fell a couple of floors down. The sleeper blinked a couple of times, looking around, and eventually his eyes rested upon what remained of Evelance, and after looking about once more, it returned inside its decadehedron, and the hole sealed itself up, and the strange golden haspil started to glow golden vines with strange spiky red flowers, and the vines drew the dirt around him, and soon the entire structure that had been unearthed was buried on the ground once again. And aside from the animals that Loki had rescued, only a dozen of the cultists had managed to survive the episode in one piece. And once the leaper had returned to his peaceful slumber, Loki was able to breathe in a sigh of relief.
What is a sleeper's name? I don't remember.
It doesn't have a name. Don't forget that people name them, but they don't give their own names. All they have is like they put in their little sleeping chambers, a sign that they signs written in all of the known languages.
Saying, leave me alone.
Just leave me alone. Sleepy time. And they're called sleeper because they're always in a dormant state.
Until they're not, and then
they're not, and then all hell breaks loose. They're the ones that inspire the expression, let sleeping dogs lie.
This one was a fish, right?
Mud skipper.
A mud skipper.
Bizarre mud skipper with many eyes. The first one to speak was he who said, well, that was certainly different. The human survivors around Loki were sobbing and screaming like a bunch of lunatics, and others were angrily conversing with one another. Eventually one said to Loki, You did this. No, all I did was put your people to sleep while I rescued the animals. What happened later is your fault, explained Loki. Others insisted on blaming Loki, and annoyed Loki said, How human of you folks to blame others for your own mistakes, and I will take my leave for now, and you are on your own. Wait, said a maiden. What are we supposed to do now? All our supplies were stored within the temple walls, and now it is sunk, and we have no place to go. How is that my problem? Said Loki, starting to walk, and Master is annoying the humans started following behind him. And Alida was still sleeping on her wounds, and whenever she was injured, she tended to sleep for a couple of days. And after being trailed for a couple of more minutes, Loki stopped and he said, Haven't you folks anything better to do than to follow me around? The humans hesitated a bit, but then one of the few remaining soldiers said, You seem to be powerful, and it will be safer for us to follow you for the time being, at least until we reach a nearby city. You are assuming that I must protect you, said Loki. The soldier gave Loki a quaint smile. The soldier indeed was counting on Loki's protection, and the fact that Loki had come to save Alida and the magical creatures he had gathered was proof enough that Loki had a kind heart, a kindness the old soldier wished to exploit, and Loki knew these intentions and it annoyed him to the core. And resigned to being trailed by 52 human survivors, Loki made his way towards little Sophia. And he guessed that they would stupidly try to get asylum in that hold, even though his brother Chikar was not letting anyone inside, and he would then slip away as soon as they set up camps outside the town's fortifications. And while walking, Loki asked his traveling companion, Just out of curiosity, did anyone here really truly believe that the creature inside the temple was a god? A couple of people assented, while the others were too embarrassed to admit their own stupidity, considering how everything ended. And Loki continued, Just because a being is strong doesn't make it a god, and even if it was, you think a couple of sacrifices would have swayed the fellow in your favor? Traditionally, yes, said the soldier. Gods have always favored sacrifices, and I am surprised you did not know that. As for the creature, I know from experience that the gods were normally do not make themselves visible, and they do not spend every waking moment asleep. A maiden nodded. If you know that creature was dangerous, why didn't you warn us? Would you have listened? Asked Loki. The group was silent once again, and close to dusk, Loki's party made the effort to set up camp, And the 5 soldiers remained the creator the fires, and once they were done, they headed out to hunt to feed the rest. And aside from the soldiers, the group was mostly made of old folk, women and a couple of small children, and were resting near the campfire. Loki commented, "Don't you look so glum? You are not the first coal to go up in smoke, and you certainly won't be the last." One of the hunters returning with a deer chastised Loki by saying, "We wanted to believe, and even us took advantage of it, and now start rubbing salt in our wounds. Boo-hoo!" In mimicry of Loki, some of the children also repeated, "Boo-hoo, boo-hoo." And to put an end to their games, the soldier smacked the head of one of the kids. And Loki then placed a leader down, and he picked up his skimming staff, and he whacked the soldier with good measure till the head was a bloody mess. And other people in camp silently watched, too afraid to do anything, while some of the children started crying, except for the one that had been struck by the soldier. And when the first soldier who had addressed Loki returned, and he saw his fellow beaten to a pulp, and he saw the blood dripping from Loki's gimmick staff, and after thinking for a moment, he decided not to comment on the incident. Eventually, someone did ask the question in everyone's mind. It was the wife of the soldier who said peevishly, "Why do you do this to him?" "He knows what he did," said Loki. And Loki watched the life of the injured soldier slip away, and eventually he got up and said, "Well, your folks seem to be doing fine." And reaching into his hair, he brought out a couple of crossbows and a box of bolts, and he added, "This should hold you up till you reach little Sophia, which is down yonder road. And are you just going to live like this?" insisted the wife of the injured man, and she made a tourniquet using the pieces of her dress. "If he generally feels sorry for his sins, then maybe I would be inclined to help him," said Loki, picking up a leader. "Please, I'm begging you, forgive him his sins. If he died, I will have no one to protect me," said the maiden, pleading. "It is not for me to forgive, rather his victim must forgive," said Loki. And realizing what Loki meant, the wife started coaxing the boy who had been struck by the soldier who was his father, and the lad eventually generally forgot the man already used to such abuses, and Loki was still unsatisfied. But he eventually healed the man, and since his ears were carrying a leader, he stretched his hair, which covered the injured man, and touching and healing his wounds. Though still sore, the man was able to awaken from unconsciousness, and frowning Loki asked, "How are you feeling today? Does anything hurt?" And the man thought a moment, and then he said dryly, "I feel fine, thank you." "Good for you," said Loki, echoing the man's disdain. And the man's wife then started saying, "Thank you for curing my foolish heart, Ben. Thank you, thank you." And so Loki was silent while the wife humbled herself, and the man he had just cured seemed like he had plenty to say, but was keeping his cool to avoid another savage beating.
At least he didn't heal me like he heals people, and he should consider himself lucky.
Yeah.
Like, we'll get to that eventually, but like...
Yeah. Time, bro?
6 minutes. Like, I was thinking about his healing horse.
He had a vague recollection of chastising his son before an unwarranted flurry of strife befell him, and Loki could both heal and injure, and in this respect he was rather similar to Evelance. With the man healed, Loki and his unwanted escort continued along their path to Little Sophia, and the walls of the town were already visible over the horizon, and it was not too often that a merchant could employ such sophisticated barrier. And most had partial walls and only a couple of fortifications, and what this town resembled now was unknown, and hidden behind such stoic brick walls on 3 sides, and the 4th barrier was created by the river. And surrounding this town was the making of an outer city with little chantries and camps, and gesturing towards the city, Loki said, "Well, you folks can take it from here, and I'm going to go on my way, and let us hope if we do meet again, it will be under less unsavory circumstances." With this, Loki left the human groups to their own devices, and he made his way towards the nearby river, and he made camp there. One of the ferrymen passing by commented, "Great, more newcomers." Loki saluted the ferryman who made the rude comment, and the ferryman saluted back, and close to noon, Alida awoke earlier than Loki had expected, and she had been resting inside the tent Loki had made for her, and the evening was rather dry and crisp, with the searing sun boiling every any touch, and at first Loki had found the sun charming, but when Alida awoke, she saw him hiding beneath a pink parasol. Alright, time, bro?
4 minutes, 30 seconds.
Alright, let's leave it here. Bye-bye, God bless.